Tonight, the Eglinton Crosstown LRT delayed once again.
This is like the third delay, and they keep pushing that date further and further down the calendar.
Those looking forward to the completion of the 19-kilometer light rapid transit line will have to wait a bit longer. Why the much-delayed line is getting delayed yet again. Plus,
it is going to be certainly a historic, extreme event for Eastern Canada.
We had people lining up before we even opened.
How those on the East Coast are bracing for Hurricane Fiona, set to make landfall in a matter of hours. And
this surplus puts Ontario in a stronger fiscal position for the short term.
The province ending the fiscal year with a big surplus instead of the deficit it had been projecting. How will the extra dollars be spent? Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. The Eglinton Crosstown LRT has been delayed yet again. After years of setbacks, the 19-kilometer light rapid transit line was finally supposed to be up and running by the end of this year. But Metrolinx confirming today that will no longer be the case. Tyler Cheese has more on why, when it might be ready, and reaction from those affected most.
Long stretches of Eglinton Avenue have been under construction for more than a decade now.
The dust is very bad. You know, a truck is going back and forth, and the city doesn't care at all.
Then there's really nowhere to park either, really, right? And traffic is getting worse.
It's ridiculous, just ridiculous. Come on, over 10 years?
Residents and business owners in the area say they're fed up with the constant disruptions.
But it's always about accessibility and visibility and parking and dirt, and we're still struggling with that. We do not have that accessibility for our customers to come and shop. This isn't the first delay, this is like the third delay. And they keep pushing that date further and further down the calendar.
Metrolinx says construction and necessary testing could not be completed on the original schedule. The agency did not provide an updated timeline, but sources tell us it'll be at least another year. Transit agency says its construction partner Crosslinx is at fault for falling behind schedule. Crosslinx did not respond to a request for comment. A source with knowledge of the project tells CBC News most of the underground stations are behind schedule.
It's not surprising.
This city councillor says Metrolinx and the province need to better manage these kinds of transit projects.
Their mismanagement of this project has real-life consequences for both residents who have been living through a nightmare in their communities, waiting for the construction to be completed, and small businesses, many of which have actually lost their businesses while they've been waiting for this to be done.
Some say the delays highlight the need for more transparency when it comes to transit infrastructure.
These private partnerships aren't working, they're secretive, they cost the public more, there's been delays, and that's why TTC Riders is asking all city council candidates if they'll make a commitment to have all new projects be public.
In a statement, Mayor John Tory said he's disappointed by the news and that he plans to urge Metrolinx to have the crosstown up and running as soon as possible. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Atlantic Canadians are bracing for what forecasters say could be one of the most severe storms to ever hit Eastern Canada. Hurricane Fiona is barreling towards Nova Scotia and getting bigger as it moves. It's expected to make landfall in just a few hours before pushing into the other eastern provinces. Shayna Luck has more on how people are preparing.
As Fiona churned closer, many Atlantic Canadians rushed out to stock up. Fresh produce, baked goods, anything that doesn't need refrigeration.
We had people lining up before we even opened, people calling before we even opened saying, can you hold bread for me?
This store doesn't have a backup generator. They worry about what happens if their power goes out. Because there's little question, the power will go out. Nova Scotia Power has activated its emergency hub. It's monitoring the grid, preparing to send out workers as long as it's safe.
As of right now, we do have over 800 people in the field right now getting ready to restore power, and hundreds more behind the scenes coordinating that effort. In addition to that, we have reached out to our partners in Ontario, Quebec, all of Atlantic Canada, and Maine to have other contractors available if we do need to bring them in as well.
Quebec hydro crews have already headed onto the Magdalen Islands, while those on PEI spent the day doing maintenance to try to help the infrastructure weather the storm. In coastal New Brunswick, people scrambled to get fishing boats out of the water in time. In Halifax, officials have been urging those without homes to go to emergency shelters.
Living outside in general across the year is a really challenging thing, and in a hurricane, it's almost impossible to keep dry and safe.
The Halifax waterfront has never been blocked off before, a safety measure now to keep everyone away. And on Cape Breton Island, where Fiona is expected to hit hard, so many people filled up on gas for cars and generators, some stations ran out completely. After Fiona hits the Maritimes, it will head on to Newfoundland and Labrador, where it's expected to hit the west and southwest coast hardest. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
Here in the GTA, many people have ties to the region. They're, of course, keeping an anxious eye on Fiona tonight. Ali Chiasson was at Pearson Airport today talking to East Coast travelers about their concerns.
So obviously you're going to try to have a good time here in Toronto, but is your mind back home?
Yes, it is. It's really concerning because when we got on the plane, my phone went off alerting everyone. So I think this is going to be a bad one, I guess.
People's minds are in two cities today. Toronto, where a lot of these travelers are here to enjoy a little holiday, and back home in Halifax, Charlottetown, and St. John's, where folks are bracing for the brunt of the storm.
Have you experienced a bad Atlantic storm before?
Yeah, the Dorian in 2019 was pretty bad. And then I think we were out of power for like about 3 days.
If the power goes out, we have a generator. And last time I went home from Dorian, my basement was flooded. Oh, no. So hopefully this won't happen.
We just hope that PEI is still there when we come back.
People concerned about it?
It was weird. It's like 50-50. I think the older people were sort of maybe used to it, had seen something like this similar. And maybe some of the younger people said, yeah, get ready type of thing.
Let me show you how my off-grid family is preparing for our first Nova Scotian hurricane.
Marquis Murray, formerly of Cobourg, Ontario, is getting ready the best he can.
I'm a bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, this is our first. We moved out to Nova Scotia about 8 weeks ago from Ontario. Hopefully our truck and plow are okay. They're heavy enough. We've done our best to follow the example of locals, neighbors. We've done our own research. And so we just hope that we prepared well enough and have, brought in everything we needed to. And now we just need to wait and see what happens.
He's been documenting the experience on TikTok, and people have been sounding off in the comments with some sound advice.
Okay, honestly, this is probably my 100th comment like this about these storm chips. I legit thought this was a joke until I went to the store yesterday. Don't worry, I got my chips. So I hope I did okay with the chips. Oh, but there's one more thing. There's the wine. We got the wine too. Have we prepared too much, which I'm okay with, but they've gone through this. And so I'd rather just be safe and know that my family, my property is taken care of. And that we've done everything we can to protect our neighbors, because you never know what could, take flight.
There won't be very many airplanes taking flight this evening to Halifax. Most, if not all, have been canceled. But it's still a very fluid situation, so the advice is if you're flying anywhere to or from the East Coast this weekend, check those flight statuses. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go to Dahlia Ashry now with a first look at your forecast. And Dahlia, as the East Coast braces for Fiona, where we are, the situation much calmer, a bit windy and quite cool tonight, but thankfully all is calm.
That's right, Kelda. I mean, like you said, the Atlantic coast is facing quite the hurricane that's approaching as of tonight. And as for here in Toronto, I mean, really, we are getting chilly conditions. It's not because of Hurricane Fiona, but we will be seeing some damp conditions over the weekend. The daytime highs in Toronto today, 16 degrees, and we will be seeing the rain a little bit tomorrow afternoon and heading into Sunday as well. So if we take a close look here, before we get into the rain, let's talk about the frost advisory that's impacting parts of northern Ontario. And now let's talk about the rain. So rain is expected to hit us at around 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, and then some scattered showers as well at around 10 p.m. And then the rain will get much more heavier as we head into Sunday, as you could see that heavy rainfall activity. As for tonight, though, temperatures will drop to 5 degrees, another single-digit night, and then tomorrow 17 degrees, and like I said, 30% chance of rain. So prepare your umbrellas.
Thanks so much, Dahlia. For the third time this week, people took to the streets to protest the death of Mahsa Amini. This is the scene at Yonge and Dundas Square tonight. Anger continues to grow in Iran and across the world over Amini's death. The 22-year-old was arrested last week in Tehran by the country's so-called morality police. She had traveled to the capital with her family from the province of Kurdistan. She was accused of violating Iran's strict dress code policies, and she later died in police custody. Authorities are claiming her death was caused by a heart attack. Protesters, meanwhile, have been calling for justice and change. Peel police have laid charges following a wild scene playing out in Brampton yesterday that was all caught on camera. Police were trying to apprehend the driver of this white Jeep in the Chinguzi Park and Steeles area. In an attempt to flee, the driver accelerated right into a tree and knocking it down. He then reversed, nearly hitting an officer and slamming into a traffic light pole. The frantic scene went on for a couple of minutes before more officers arrived and arrested the occupants. Police say there were no injuries. A 31-year-old man from Quebec is now facing numerous charges, including impaired operation of a vehicle. 2 other men in the Jeep were also arrested and charged with drug offenses. The Ontario government had been projecting a big deficit in its budget last year, but updated numbers just released instead show a surplus to the tune of more than $2 billion. And tonight, the opposition has some ideas about how the government should spend that money. Lorena Redekop has this story.
21-22 was an extraordinary year.
An extraordinary year and an extraordinary change in the financial picture. The government had originally projected a $33.1 billion deficit last spring, revising that, most recently in this year's budget. Now, a big switch with a $2.1 billion surplus. The government says pandemic recovery happened faster than expected, bringing in more than $20 billion more in tax revenue. But the finance minister says the economic future is uncertain. He plans to pause the automatic MPP pay raise that happens when there's a surplus.
With workers and families struggling with increased costs, now is not the time for politicians to be receiving raises.
However, in June, 88% of the PC caucus was given a pay bump by either being named to cabinet or one of 43 parliamentary assistant roles, nearly double the number the PCs had during the last government. Today's public accounts numbers show the government spent more than expected on health care, less on education.
Doug Ford underspends by billions.
These numbers come at a time when Bill 124 continues, capping wages for nurses and other public sector workers at 1% a year.
And for all of the public sector workers who are fighting Doug Ford in court right now over Bill 124, this is a slap in the face.
It's also as education unions are in contract talks, including support workers from CUPE. It's day one of their strike vote, with union leaders recommending members vote yes.
What it will do is give us a very clear mandate from the workers to head back to the bargaining table.
The education minister announced more money today, not for workers, but directly to parents for tutoring supports, an extra $115 million. Parents can apply next month, though there are still no clear details.
Today, the government is announcing an increase of investment directly to parents on the same day the CUPEs decided on a path to a strike, and I think the contrast could not be more clear.
The finance minister warns the surplus for last year doesn't mean there'll be one again, and says there are real challenges ahead with rising costs and higher interest rates. Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Cold and flu season is ramping up, but parents looking for medicine to help relieve their children's symptoms may be out of luck. That's because of an ongoing shortage of children's Tylenol and Advil.
We're getting a lot more fevers and aches and pains, etc. So there's a higher demand and a lot of frustration because these products are still not available, unfortunately. My current supply of these products is zero. I have none of them.
The shortage is expected to last for several more weeks. Pharmacists are urging people not to hoard children's pain products when they are available, especially if your child isn't sick. Welcome back. There is a new art installation at Toronto Police Headquarters to mark National Truth and Reconciliation Day next week, honoring the children who died at residential schools.
but so too do they represent the leadership and wisdom of the Indigenous community, the voices that, as a policing community, we must continue to listen and learn from. In this, we have a long way to go.
Hundreds of paper cranes make up the installation. Toronto police say part of the goal is to have people reflect on the impacts of residential schools. Today's unveiling also included a performance by the Red Bear Singers, who dedicated a song to the 2 police officers who died last week. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day, is on September 30th. Well, most people call Fir Grove Grassways by its given name, but to people who are from there, it's known as Connections. Toronto Community Housing launched a revitalization plan for the community back in 2018, but there is a lot of uncertainty around what the neighborhood will look like in the years ahead. From CBC Toronto's Jane and Finch Community Bureau, Ardell Manukduk takes a look at the past, present, and future of Fir Grove.
Children laughing and playing used to be the sound bed in Fir Grove. It's since been replaced by the beeping and banging about caused by heavy machinery, clearing the way for a new vision of the community. The old buildings were in a critical state, cheaper to replace than repair, forcing more than 600 people to relocate.
My kitchen and dining room.
They needed a lot of help. It was falling from inside. Pipes, even from my own home, like they started smelling.
Stephanie Lucas lived in the community for almost 2 decades, from grade school up until her eldest daughter was a year old.
All the memories of just like taking pictures of her when she was a baby.
Oh, you want to let go now?
She taking her first steps, walking, little things like that. And now, like, when she gets older, I can't come back and be like, hey, this is where you were born. This is where you grew up the first year.
Lucas has since had a second child and is living near Leslie and Shepherd as she waits for construction to finish back at Fir Grove. But it remains unclear when the revitalization project will be complete. While some homes have been refurbished, Toronto Community Housing says it still hasn't secured funding to replace the demolished buildings. TCH plans to build 236 rent-geared-to-income units with up to 107 additional affordable units. There's also a possibility of adding 600 market-rate homes.
Things will change, as we know. When developers come in, it's going to be based on what their needs are, while Toronto Housing have to fulfill and make sure all the units are back. It's not going to be the same.
Fir Grove was originally built in the 1970s. The revitalization plan is the first significant development since then.
I just wish that it was developed in a way that can sustain. It's only 50 years. Like, right. 50 years is not a long time, right?
Tiffany Ford has been documenting the history in an online memorial that includes prominent former residents sharing their memories of Fir Grove, or Connections as it's affectionately known.
Because the tops are connected. So that's why they call it Connection.
The basketball court became the hub.
We played hockey on the basketball court right in the middle of Connections during the wintertime.
Even now, as an adult, I miss it.
I just felt like once it disappears, we're never going to see it again, unfortunately. And so I just wanted to keep it alive because I personally am not ready for it to go.
Neither is Stephanie Lucas, who plans to return if she gets the chance.
If I'm still under TCHC, I'm coming right back. Oh yeah, I work here in Jane and Finch still. I love my community. I will come back.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
And this is a live look at the Toronto skyline. Clear tonight with some cloudy periods developing overnight. Currently it is 12 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Dahlia now with a look at your extended forecast. And Dahlia, we are looking at some wet weather this weekend.
That's right, Kelda. If you didn't have your umbrella earlier today, you will need it for part of the day tomorrow. And as we head into Sunday, tomorrow though, we will see some sunshine as well. So have no fear. The sunshine is near as well. But it is fall, so there will be some cool nights ahead, including tonight, but we'll get to that later. First, let's talk about the daytime high in Toronto, 16 degrees. A little bit cooler out in Ottawa and Kingston, 13 degrees. Like I said, we will be expecting the rain, but also strong winds as we head into tonight and tomorrow. And there is a frost advisory for the northern part of the province here in Ontario. But speaking of winds, like I said, some strong winds tonight. It will be gusting up to 25 kilometers an hour. However, as we head into tomorrow, it will get a little bit lighter, especially by around 7 a.m. And then it will pick back up a little bit around 4 o'clock. And then as you can see here on Sunday at around 7 a.m., that's when it picks up just a bit again. But overall, some fairly light winds as we head into the evening, but it's all about the rain tomorrow. Tonight, temperatures will drop to 5 degrees, a little cooler out in Markham and Hamilton and Oshawa, 2 degrees. Typical seasonal fall conditions. It is single digits. Tomorrow, though, we will be seeing double digits in the evening as well. And if we take a look here at our 5-day forecast, we will be seeing, like I said, those double digits. Sorry, a little technical difficulties there, but those double digits right there as Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But it is a damp weekend, especially Sunday going into Monday. As you commute to work, you will see those damp conditions. So that will continue for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then back to those dry conditions on Wednesday. But again, going back down to those single digits for the evening starting on Tuesday night and Wednesday night. So Kelda, make sure you have your umbrella, and for everyone else, as you commute to work on Monday, try to enjoy Saturday as much as you can.
Gotcha. Thanks so much, Dahlia. Finally tonight, an innovative program to make encountering wild animals more accessible to the deaf community. Cuba's National Zoo now has sign language interpreters who serve as tour guides for deaf visitors. It allows them to experience the facility and its inhabitants while the interpreter offers them more information. Officials say they've seen an uptick in people visiting since the program launched earlier this year. The zoo also has programs such as animal therapy for children with Down syndrome, autism, and other special needs. And that is our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can get caught up anytime on our website. Just head to cbc.ca/Toronto. Talia Ricci has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will be back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.